Welcome to All Things Mental,
a podcast that honors the messy, beautiful, nonlinear journey of healing. Because healing isn't about fixing what's broken.
It's about discovering what you need in this moment and learning to trust yourself along the way.
Here, we share stories, resources, and reminders that you're never alone on your path.
So take a breath, lean in, and remember,
you are not broken.
You're just becoming a more beautiful version of your higher self. We're your co-hosts, Michelle
and Leanna,
here to remind you that
you're never alone
on your healing journey. Hello, and welcome back to All Things Mental. This episode is called All Things Forgiveness, where we're going to essentially be discussing what exactly that means to each of us. So, Leanna, what does forgiveness mean to you?
Forgiveness is so much about being willing to let go of the trauma that happened, because usually when there's something that needs forgiveness, it's a trauma, it's a trigger, it's something that happened that caused a deep feeling on the inside that was not positive, that was a not good experience, and it was hurtful. You're hurt, right? You have a hurt emotion, a hurt heart, and that can be from yourself. Like, you could need self-forgiveness in terms of how you maybe didn't honor your body that day, or we talk about our routines, didn't do our specific routine or something.
I was thinking about before we even started recording about how my routine has been off this week, but trying to remind myself that your routine doesn't have to be perfect. It can be what it needs to be on a day-to-day basis.
Exactly. And I think a lot of it is acknowledging that the hurt is not our fault, but the healing is our responsibility. That's a big quote in the self-help space that I've heard. I'm sure you've heard it too, Michelle. So to any of our listeners who are not familiar with that phrase, it's the hurt is not our fault, but the healing is our responsibility. So forgiveness is really more about us being able to have radical acceptance of what happened, and then being able to move past it, never forgetting it, but moving past it so that you can let go and be like, I'm moving forward and I'm choosing to not let this affect me as strongly.
Yeah, exactly. Acknowledging the trauma or acknowledging something that happened. Because for me over the years, growing up, I always thought forgiveness was, well, so-and-so's mad at me, so I need their forgiveness. And then as the years have progressed, I have learned that it's more so, like you said, it's about forgiving a part of yourself or forgiving something that you did or didn't do. And I have forgiven the girl that sexually assaulted me. I have forgiven my parents for things. I have forgiven my brother for things. I've forgiven myself for things. I've forgiven friends that have ghosted me. It's more so for me than it is for them, because you don't realize how much your body holds on to guilt, stress, and a whole bunch of other emotions.
Yeah. And there's a lot of shame that comes with needing to forgive when something happens, because I know for me, I'm a person who's very hard on myself. So a lot of the times it's well, why can't I just not care so much? Or why did this bother me? Or I should just get over it. It's not that simple. There needs to be a whole 5+ stages of grief that goes through it.
I was literally thinking that earlier when you had mentioned something, and I was like, it sounds like the stages of grief. You need to acknowledge it before you can forgive yourself and move past it.
Yes, absolutely. It's important to acknowledge the feelings that have come up that were hurt and affected, and then to have that acceptance, and then ultimately the forgiveness comes at the end.
Yeah. And it can go as deep as, it can go not deep, and it can go extremely deep. I'll give you an example. There's a Hawaiian practice. I don't recall how to actually pronounce it. So can you pronounce it for us, Miss Lee?
Yes. It's Ho'oponopono.
Yes. And it basically, essentially, what that is it's a Hawaiian practice that they use. Basically, you're saying sorry forgive me, thank you, and I love you. And I've done a practice like this before. And when it was first introduced to me, I was like, oh my God, I love this. I'm going to do this every year at the end of the year. It's going to be part of my reset. We talked about that in like a previous episode, but like I didn't mention it. So like it's not part of my reset. Because like back then I had so much to forgive, and now I still have things to forgive, but why wait? Forgive yourself in the moment when you're like, ooh, I need forgiveness. Like a not so deep example for me is like this week I had plans to like do a whole bunch of spring cleaning because as we record this, it's the spring equinox. And I wanted to do like all the things, like change the sheets on the bed, organize this space, do this, do that. And me and my husband came up with a whole list of things we wanted to get done. And this week I listened to my body and I caught up on sleep because I'm on my spring time off in my career. And it was just like I was being really, really hard on myself. And it's now Friday and I'm finally like, okay, I'm over it. But now I go back to work on Monday and I'm kind of like frustrated with how I acted and what I did this week. But like at the same time, like everything happens, I said this before, everything happens for a reason within reason.
Mm.
I needed to go through what I went through this week. Like I was at low points this week, I was at high points this week, but it all came together. And now today, when I got home from getting a massage and adjustment, I came home and the kitchen was like, the dishes were put away and the kitchen was organized. The bed, the sheets had been changed and the blankets had been changed. And the blanket that we have on the couch had been changed out. All things that we had planned on doing. But I guess my husband was like, I want to surprise her. I can tell that she like needs to come home to a clean home. And I messaged him and was like, babe, did you like do, and I knew he did it, but like it's obvious who else was going to do it. And I messaged him and asked him and he goes, yeah. And my only request is to keep the momentum going. And I was like, I had every intention of cleaning today. So that honestly, like, kind of helps that it's already started. And we're tag teaming and getting as much done as we can between today and Sunday because he's going to be off tomorrow and Sunday.
Beautiful. That sounds really nice. And yeah, there's definitely a level of forgiveness there that can be felt, you know, just in acknowledging that like maybe you're being hard on yourself for not getting what you intended to get done, but now you can acknowledge that it's okay. And like I think that's really important, is not letting the self-flagellation, as we've learned in Mary's episode, not letting the self-flagellation get in the way of our ability to forgive ourselves for too long, right? Because the sooner we catch it, the sooner we can feel better and move forward.
Exactly. Because like something that when I think of what we talked about with Mary in our episode with her, is like there's things can, like, you know how like when you marinate meat, things can also marinate in your brain. And if you let them stay there too long, they're going to have a sense of like control, or you're going to feel like they have a sense of control when really they don't. The intrusive thoughts are just intrusive thoughts. Like something that my husband says to me all the time, sometimes you need to let the silly intrusive thoughts win. That way, like when like the bigger ones come, you could realize, oh, okay, well, that's a silly intrusive thought. And by like silly intrusive thoughts, I mean bite your wife on the shoulder, because he does that to me all the time. And I'm like, what are you doing? Because the intrusive thought one, or like poke the nose of your partner, even though they're doing something like serious or whatever. Like those, that's what I mean by giving into the intrusive thoughts.
Okay. Yeah. I definitely have to explore that. Unfortunately, my intrusive thoughts are really negative and bad. And there's something that I'm working on in therapy currently. Like I brought it up kind of towards as I was standing up and like getting ready to walk out the door, like type of thing. So I was like, hey, Right. Because I was like, oh man, I need to address it. Well, because she was like, maybe this could be like an OCD thing or something. Because I'm currently being assessed for ADHD myself, and it's something that I feel like has affected my adult life more so than like my childhood life.
We
Because
were talking about this before we started recording, and I'm also in the process of getting diagnosed with ADHD.
yeah, I think that's incredible that both this week we were like, yep, universe, we need to do that.
Let's do
So,
this.
yeah, and no, it's really beautiful because like I have two versions of myself sometimes. I think of the unhealed, triggered, traumatized version of myself, and then the mostly, healing is a journey, healing isn't linear, but like the mostly healed version of me who has self-worth and knows who she is and has self-awareness and things like that, emotional intelligence. The old me would have been like, oh my God, I can't believe I didn't get diagnosed earlier in my life and that I could have had more years of medicine or something or
Yeah.
help or tools to feel better. But the truth is that I'm looking at it now in my life because I'm ready to face it. Like I didn't have the traditional signs of student life where like I would have struggles at school. Like I had my own struggles with procrastination and things like that, but I never like pulled all-nighters or anything like that. So like I didn't feel like I was in line with my friends who were clearly like having ADHD or something. Like it just didn't feel as
Yeah,
obvious to me.
it goes back to that whole comparison thing when we were kids growing up. Like, oh well, I only have this, they have all of that. Like I remember when I like fell and hurt my back. I was telling my aunt about it years later, and like, did you ever go get checked out? I'm like, no, because dad said that it wasn't as bad as your back. To which her response was, okay, but it could get that bad. And I don't want it to get that bad. And now I'm at a point where I tell people my back is like neutral, but I full heartedly agree with you because it's so much easier to diagnose ADHD in guys than it is to diagnose ADHD
Mm,
in women. Like, I agree with what you said about how like you didn't feel like you needed it then, and it's you have two people within you. You have your healed self that's like in the process of like obviously still healing, because as we mentioned before, healing is absolutely a journey. And I was thinking about this the other day. To me, yes, healing is a journey, but I also feel like it's part of life. Like I think Chelsea mentioned that in the episode that we recorded with her. It's just life and the lessons and trials you go through to become the person you're meant to become. But I have that same struggle where it's like even this week, I felt like I was resolving back to my unhealed self. And one of the things that I do a lot when I'm letting the mental health marinate, we'll call it, is I tend to go back to saying I'm sorry when I shouldn't. And I said this before to you, we need to do an episode where we talk about why sorry you don't need to say it all so often.
Yeah. Yes. That's like interesting because I feel like there might be some confusion around like maybe I don't know. I'm with you, but like I feel like people may be listening or well, if I'm not sorry, then am I really forgiving myself? It's that double-edged sword, I guess. But
Yeah,
like there's a way where like you can be saying sorry over correcting the situation to try to be like, oh, I'm
like you
sorry
were
about
late
this.
or you interrupted them but you didn't know that they were going to speak. Like that's what I'm talking about. Like
Hmm.
things that you like don't need to actually say that you're sorry for. Like if you were late because there was traffic, that was not your fault. You don't have to say that you're sorry.
Right.
To say something like, I thank you so much for waiting for me, like flip the script.
Yeah, that's so powerful. That really is because like that goes into the self-forgiveness of like us as women like not needing to apologize for just existing and
Yes.
being a woman in this world. There's so many layers to that, but like in terms of just being willing to say sorry and like if we're seeking forgiveness from somebody in our life, then we can ultimately be the ones to say sorry first. But usually in some sort of altercation or argument or something, or like an accident or a hurt or something, whatever the situation may be, there usually has to be some level of apology from both sides, you know? and one person is always going to be the bigger person to say it first, or they'll come together and be like, hey, our love for each other is so much more than just this one situation. Like it's okay. Like we're going to move past this. And, like there's something that I need to work on in terms of forgiveness as well. But I feel like I already have forgiven myself, because very quickly after the situation happened, I was like, okay, I didn't like, I needed some validation for sure based
Yeah.
on my experience. But then the situation kind of continued onward, and I was like, okay, I need to have some awareness of what happened and why I acted a certain way. And okay, I understand. And now I have my own forgiveness, but now I'm seeking forgiveness from the other person, and it's just going to be okay in the end. I know it will. I can't imagine it not being okay, but there's going to be layers of forgiveness if it's not okay, and we'll see what happens. But
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like, I mean, like for instance, like I mentioned earlier in the episode that I forgave the girl that sexually assaulted me. And for me, I didn't get an apology from her, and I never will. I had to do it for myself. And I forgave, like, the way, like, my upbringing, like whether it be my parents or somebody else in my family, and how they treated me. But like I've never really actually have ever gotten a apology from those parties, whether it be my family or the girl that did what she did to me. But like I was able to let go of it and remember it's not my fault. Because I remember like talking last night with my husband about the situationship and how like I just felt like I don't remember what had come up, but he was like, "You need to remember, baby, it was never your fault. It is not your fault that she did that to you. It is not your fault that you went through that. She saw your vulnerability and took advantage of it, and that's on her, not on you." And
wow.
like it's true, but like that was something that I apparently had been holding on to for years, and I let go of it last night.
Oh, good for you. Wow, that's really powerful. You're so inspiring. You really are.
You're inspiring too. Like
Oh,
just like I love our conversations. They're always so beautiful, and I'm grateful for like just being able to talk about all the topics that we've talked about and will continue to talk about on this podcast.
yes, of course. I couldn't agree more. I enjoy listening to it, because we've recorded weeks and months in advance, and then hearing back to our conversation and remembering our laughter and our sadness and our everything in between. Like it's just so special. So I truly treasure this
Oh
time.
yeah, absolutely. For instance, I re-listened last night to an episode that's already premiered at this point, All Things Fun, and I needed that episode. I was like, oh, past Michelle and past Leanna have some real ones. Like it's kind of like nice to like look back on.
Yeah, of course. And I think that's all part of like the journey, right? Is like looking back at how far we've come. And even if we have a setback, it's like, but like I've come so far and I'm able to have such a wisdom about it. Like I think now in my life, my relationship with my parents has changed a lot, and they have this greater understanding of me and who I am as a person. And, you know, there's there's been some great conversations that we've had lately, but also like some that I'm like, okay, that's very typical of my mom or my dad or whatever. And I'm like, okay, that is what it is. Like it's not negative towards me or whatever, but I also have that awareness, and I've already done the work to forgive the past of them rejecting the engagement and everything and like that kind of thing. But, you know, it was I'm just grateful that like I have been able to work on that and like actually hear, the work being done.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because like I don't know if I mentioned this on a previous episode, but I feel like I've mentioned it to you, where I was told by my best friend and by my aunt, you need to start acting like they're never gonna change, like referring to my parents. And
Mhm.
once you do that, maybe, just maybe, they'll accept that you have. And I like at first was like, no, that's not gonna work, or that's gonna take too long, or blah 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 blah. And it did take a while, but I feel like I'm at a point now where my parents see me as an adult. They don't just see me as their little girl. I'll always be their little girl, but they see me as a person, and they
Yes.
respect me as a human being. And I never in my life thought I would be able to say that.
Yeah, no, I agree. I truly feel like there's so much more growth that has happened in the recent year for me and my family, like as a whole, like there's just been so much like transformation. And then in myself, like just having that radical acceptance of everything, there things don't trigger me as often anymore, if at all,
I
because
use
it's like
that
I
word
expect it.
very, very like if I use the word trigger, like I mean it like it triggered me because
Yeah,
that's like a word that you should not use lightly.
right. No, I totally agree. And like like that meant going back to the two versions of me thing, like the previous unhealed version of me would have totally been like, oh my God, I can't deal, like I can't be around them, like blah blah blah. But like now I'm able to have the wisdom and the awareness of like they just have always done the best that they could with what they had at the time. It doesn't excuse the behavior, but it mostly puts the onus back on me to be like, the healing is my responsibility and I've healed.
Yeah, because I recently had a conversation with my dad that was very, very beautiful. And it just kind of put in perspective the fact that what I was told to do by my best friend and my aunt actually paid off.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Yeah. It was
Good.
very, very nice. And like, well, there might be things that you have to forgive more than once. Like, I have an article pulled up that focuses on the prayer, the Hawaiian prayer. But it essentially like mentions how like, and I'll obviously put it in like the show notes, but basically like how like you might need to do it more than once. Like it might take you time to process it, and then you're like, no, I need to do it again. It's kind of like, I guess, would you agree with me that forgiveness is kind of like a muscle you have to like teach your brain to like understand and do, kind of like with anything else, whether it be pickleball or, you know, learning how to do like a new Pilates move or whatever?
Yeah, I agree. It needs to be a muscle that flexes, like that is able to like not be so rigid, because sometimes people, I know some people who are very like, oh, this person crossed me, like I will never talk to them again, and blah 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 blah. And I'm just like, that's sad, like to be so
Like
rigid.
I've talked about a girl on a previous episode that like I have forgiven, but I would love to have a conversation with her. Now, I'm not like holding on to it like, oh, if it doesn't happen, that stinks, because like I do wish this particular person that I'm thinking of nothing but the best. But like at the same time, I myself would like to have a conversation because I'm more healed now, and I'm hoping that maybe she's more healed and we could have a conversation. Not in the sense to become friends again, but just in the sense to like kind of like just, I'm not even sure what I'm trying to say, but like basically like, because the past is in the past, but like kind of have like a better understanding of what happened and what was going on. Because like I said it before, like everything happens for a reason, within reason. Um,
Hmm.
and I just like, that's like the one person I would like to still talk to. But like when it comes to like other like things of forgiveness, like the first time I ever did this practice, I had mentioned earlier in the episode that I would do it. I want to do it, every year during my reset. And like that sounded really good at the time, but I had a lot to forgive then because it was early on when I first learned about this practice. And now I'm at a point where I'm like, I don't need to. Because like the first time I ever did it, I journaled it all out. And journaling can also help with forgiveness. And then I actually recorded myself, like looking myself in the eye and
Mm.
saying, like, here's what I'm sorry for. Forgive me. I'm sorry and I love you, or whatever it is. Oh, thank
Hmm.
you. And I love you. So I'm sorry for blah, 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 blah. Please forgive me for blah, 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 blah. thank you and I love you. Because
Mm.
like you're not necessarily like saying I love you to that person. You're saying I love you to what occurred. And you can do this for something so simple to something so complex. Or in between.
Yeah. No, I love that. I actually remember now I recorded a meditation, the Ho'oponopono prayer, um, where I wrote like a script and I recorded it on my phone at the time and put some music under it and like made this beautiful meditation. And I'd love to resurface that at some point. I don't remember how long it is. Maybe we could put it at the end of this episode or something.
Oh,
What?
if you find it, we can put it in the show notes, girl.
Yeah, well, I'd have to re-upload it to the internet because it doesn't exist on the internet right now. But it's something that I'm proud of and that I loved making, and I just would want to repurpose it. So maybe we can figure out a way to do that. But anyway,
Yeah.
in terms of like forgiveness of self, like, is there more that we can touch on, like, in terms of like first acknowledging that we caused like some sort of self-flagellation in ourselves, or did we already touch on that? Like I
I
am
feel
curious to
like
know your
we could talk about that forever. But essentially, like forgiveness with yourself is going to happen on, it could happen daily, it could happen weekly, it could happen yearly, monthly, whatever. It just depends on where you are in your healing journey. But just acknowledging that you might have something to forgive, like really, really think about it. Like after this episode, or even maybe during, so pause it and just think for a minute about, is there something that is heavy on your heart that you feel like you need to forgive? And if it's there, that's okay. Like I said, I'm going to link the article that we're referring to in the show notes, and
Mm.
it will give you like a guide, because the first person introduced me to this practice was so shocking, Chelsea.
That's so nice though. I mean, it's important to like have this realization that forgiveness is essential. Um, and I just think about, like I said, this person about who I know who holds grudges, and I'm just like, I don't understand why there needs to be such a grudge. Like, granted, like there are friendships that have ended in my life, and there are at least two that I can think of that were initiated by me, but the rest of them are just, from whatever timeline. Like, oh my God, I just had somebody the other day tell me that you're so nice, Leanna. Like, I bet you don't have any enemies or whatever. And I had to sit with that, and I was like, I'd like to think so, because the people pleaser in me is like, I don't want to
Yeah.
ever make anyone upset with me or mad. But then at the same time, I'm like, I deserve to be heard and like be witnessed and seen. And like, if that means that I'm not perfect, then it is what it is. But
Well,
like,
nobody is perfect. Just
right.
whenever you refer to God, the universe, energy, because we talked about this on the spirituality episode, God is energy.
Mhm.
That, at least that's my perspective of it. And like at the end of the day, whatever you believe in, they love you unconditionally.
Yes, that's so important. Oh, yeah, because this whole like being raised Catholic thing of like going to confession and whatever and like trying to
Yeah, I
make it.
remember that. And I remember like having to like, because like that's where you would go and like tell your sins and then you would be cleansed. And I never like felt like that was just something I did because I had to do it. But
Yeah.
now I like try to live with the mindset I get to. Like I get to live this life that I'm living, a life worth living. I
Yeah.
get to wake up every morning and have Sally sleeping at my feet and my husband sleeping next to me. Like I get to, move my body. Because that's something else that I've been working through a lot this week, of like, I have very specific goals I've been doing weekly for like my like workouts and things like that. But like I'm at a season right now. I was talking to my accountability partner about this, and she was like, it sounds like you're where I'm at, where you just want to get up and move your body, and any movement is good movement. And that was something else. I was like, yeah, that's a really good point. So that's my plan moving forward. is to just like wake up, do what I need to do to like wake myself up or whatever, and then go from there. Like I recently added something into my morning routine like literally 2 days ago, because I need to start stretching my body more because I have tight hips. And
Yeah.
my massage therapist was like showing me a couple of different moves I could do in bed before I even get up, and I was just like, okay, I like this idea. And I had done it for like a while, and I was like, oh, I don't have to do that anymore. But like, no, sometimes like, no, like just because your body's feeling better doesn't mean you have to stop doing it. It's like, don't stop doing the self-development, don't stop doing the hypnosis, is because all of it in the end is you heading towards your higher self.
That's so special and beautiful. I love that. Because I think it's the path less traveled to forgive yourself, to forgive others, to seek forgiveness from others at the, you know, but ultimately not to need it to have the forgiveness, because yeah, you could just hold a grudge and never want to talk to somebody again. But then like if you ever come across them, like, you know, it is what it is.
All of our listeners and we ourselves have done something like that when we were a kid. Like, ugh, you did this, and I don't want to talk to you anymore. Like, you saying that reminded me of something that I did when I was a teenager. And I was like, yeah, that wasn't a very nice thing. But at the time, I didn't know. But like now I'm at a point where I'm not doing the forgiveness for myself. I mean, I am doing the forgiveness for myself. I'm not doing it for other people. And like,
Yeah.
are there times where you need to have a conversation and forgive a friend or forgive a loved one, whatever you want to refer them as? Absolutely. But at the end of the day, it's a beautiful thing when you realize that forgiveness can be accomplished without a third party.
Yes. Agree. Agree so much. And I think that's just so powerful because I don't think this type of subject is talked about enough.
No, I don't think
Um,
so.
so I love that we're bringing light to this because it already feels like one of my more favorite talks that we've had, just in terms of like how far I know I've come, and I could see, you know, in just in knowing you, like how far we've come, I could say, like for our journeys and for how much we're just so happy to be alive and live this life worth living and like not hold resentments in our heart. Like that's the biggest thing, especially in like marriage and everything, you know, is to not let the little things fester and build
Mhm.
resentment, because then that just pulls you apart, versus coming together and having that forgiveness. And like that, I think that's another layer to this in in both of our lives with our partners, like just having that ability to like walk through life with them and say that like we can step on each other sometimes without intention, not meaning to, and then we realize, okay, wait, we need to like have this
Because
forgiveness
you
of
get
each other.
so comfortable with your partner, that's because me and my husband talk about this all the time. You get so comfortable with your partner sometimes that they become your safe space, to the point that like you sometimes might be meaner to them than you would be anybody else, because you know that they're your safe space. And I've done that to him, he's done that to me, and we've acknowledged it when it went too far one time and we had to set a boundary.
Yeah, no, that's so true. That's so true. Like there's been many times where me and my husband have talked, and like we've just needed to have like a quick check-in of like, hey, this particular thing like bothered me, and I need to like process this for, you know, my husband likes to process things for a time. I'm the type of person that's like kind of ready to get it going and move through. What?
I'm laughing because from my understanding, does your husband need a couple days to process?
Yes.
And then you just process right then and there and move on with your life?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm your husband and my husband is you.
So for you, it's opposite of us. That's
Yeah,
funny.
like when we first got together, I think I mentioned this before. He hated that I would like come back to him a couple of days later. I'm like, hey, remember that fight we had the other day? Well, I processed it and I would like to talk about it again. And now he like it doesn't bother him, but at first it annoyed him to like no end. And now he's like, this is how her brain processes. And like I've like asked him this like recently when we had to have a conversation about it or about something that had come up. And he's like, does it bother you? Like, no, it doesn't bother me because like it's like literally once we've had the conversation, I've moved on with my life, babe. So when you bring it back up, I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. And like he can talk about it, but like to him, it's like, okay, it happened. It's kind of like the whole like out of sight, out of mind thing. We've moved on. It's all good.
Right. But then you uncover more layers of yourself and you realize, hey, that actually, I'm not done with this chapter of my life. Like, I need to revisit this page and acknowledge this part of the story and move forward. Like, that's where I'm at with the ADHD diagnosis, because I've felt like in my adult life, now that my anxiety is under control, like that was where like my therapist gave me a great phrase where she was like, you may have felt like maybe that you didn't have all these issues maybe as a kid because or as a young adult because you learned how to manage with
Survive
your life. Yes.
because you were in
We learned how
survival
to
mode
adapt.
because we didn't realize it, but we were in survival mode probably most of our like childhood. Like as you were saying that, like she's talking about survival mode. Like it's survival mode, but we didn't know what it was at the time.
That's so true. Yeah, it makes so much sense because like me being the eldest daughter and like just having all these expectations. Like I love those posts from like the holistic psychologist who like talks about like eldest daughter syndrome and other things and I'm just like, yeah, that's so me because like I I have this feeling of like needing to be perfect all the time and not letting anything slip. So I've learned to adapt to my environment, but like sometimes my brain just isn't like having that executive function issue or
Yeah.
but also just acknowledging that it's a spectrum, that I'm like maybe I only have like 20% and like some people who are at the 80 plus like may have it way worse than me, but it doesn't negate my
Yeah,
experience.
it doesn't negate your experience because something that like I talk about with like people in my life very often is how like, oh well, I'm not going to compare your experience to my experience because you're in pain doesn't mean that like, oh well, my pain's worse than yours. Like I hate it when people do that. But something that you had mentioned about the eldest daughter, I feel the same way, and I'm technically like the youngest, but like I am the only daughter my parents have, so in my opinion that makes me an eldest daughter. But my husband's been like, well, your brother's older than you. He's the eldest. I'm like, okay, but he's a boy and I am a girl. Like, and I don't know, like this has been like up for, I've seen debates of this on like the internet. And I'm like, I don't know, like, but like I don't relate to it as much, but I relate to the perfectionist and having to be perfect and not being able to do anything wrong kind of thing. And like, I mean, I used to get the compliment all the time. Oh my God, you're so mature for your age. And I used to love that compliment. But now looking back on it, that is not something that I don't even say that to. I just, no, like it's not something you should say. Kids should be allowed to be kids and you shouldn't say to them, oh my God, you're so mature for your age. Because I had that said to me probably the youngest I remember is 16, but I guarantee it was said to me before then.
Wow. Yeah, that's tough. Yeah. I think a huge part of growth is acknowledging the people in our life just like are so like so many people, like I said, the road less traveled, path less traveled, like people don't go into healing because it's messy, it's hard, it
Yeah,
hurts.
and
at
like
first.
1% of people, like I mean, there's probably like it might be like more than 1%, but like I read something somewhere once that was like only 1% of people go into actually trying to figure it out. Because like we talked about this before, like we're breaking the cycle. Even if you're just doing it for yourself, you're breaking the cycle. Like
Yes.
generational trauma, generational like pass downs. Like I remember when I lived with my aunt, like I don't know where I got anxiety from. And without skipping a beat, she says to me, Michelle, have you met your father? Oh my God. She goes, I'm not wrong. I'm like, no, you're not. But then she also explained to me that my grandma, who I've been told I look exactly like, had really bad anxiety. But like, she grew up in a time that mental health was like frowned upon and not
Right.
considered real and this and that and what have you.
Right.
But like we're breaking the cycle. Like I had a conversation about this a couple years ago with one of my cousins. Like we're breaking the cycle. We're not going to allow future generations or even just ourselves live through this anymore.
Yeah.
And I think it's a combination of millennials. There might be like other like generations that are doing it, but I think the majority of it is millennials.
Yeah. Yeah, we started it.
We started it. And like we've been through so much, like 9/11 and then like wars, and we just had so much like happen in our lives that it's just like how good another something else is happening. And that's why you need to focus on forgiving yourself.
Yeah.
Situations and this and that, and giving yourself grace. I think giving yourself grace and forgiveness kind of go hand in hand.
Totally. I love that. I love that so much. I agree. I mean, the grace that we can give for who we are and how we act. Like I know my 20s, I had so much going on and lots of roller coaster of emotions and different places that I lived, and I was a completely different person for a long time. But like now in my 30s, I'm happy to be 31. Yay.
Yeah, like I remember when I was turning 30, my brother said to me, aren't you scared? I'm like, no, I'm so over my 20s, bring it on. And now I'm in my like late 30s, which is just really weird to say, but it's the truth. But like I've heard that like your 40s are even better. So like it's like you get better with age, and this life worth living is just gonna get better and better and better and better.
Yes. And that all comes with acknowledging that we are who we are, and the past doesn't define us. We can choose to shape our future.
But don't forget the past. You got to remember it so that way you don't repeat. It's like history repeats itself if you don't learn from history.
True. That's so true.
And that's like something like that the world needs to learn. But I feel like if individuals learn it and then pass it on like we're passing it on to our listeners, it would be very, very helpful. It's like when one person does something nice for 3 people, and then those 3 people do something nice for 3 other people. Like chain reaction.
Yeah.
Love, not hate.
So true. Have courage, be kind.
Exactly. Have courage, be kind, and live a life worth living, and know it's okay to forgive yourself.
Yes, you deserve it. Thanks, Michelle. This has been a lovely conversation, and one of my favorite so far, truly.
Every single time we record, I feel like we say that because like we'll end and be like, oh, so good. Me and Leanna, we pump each other up like daily. Like we don't record every week, even though this is like the second recording we're doing. Fine, and we're doing another one this weekend, which is insane. But hey, we're living life, and we're really enjoying this journey, and we really hope that our listeners are enjoying it. But until next time, talk soon.
Sounds good. Thanks, Michelle.
Yep. Bye for now.
Bye for now. Thank you for listening to this episode of All Things Mental.
Please follow us on social media at All Things Mental Podcast to let us know how this episode helped you on your healing journey.
Subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts so that you don't miss an episode.
And remember,
you are not broken.
You're just becoming a more beautiful version
of your higher self.